Microphone.
Uh-oh.
Oh no!
That boom operator, he's fired.
That's a hard job. Have you held a boom all day?
No.
You got to show some respect. If we had a real boom operator,
He'd be fired.
he would probably go dunk, and just give you a little nudge on
And
the
then
head,
I'd fire.
and then you fire him.
I think we're live.
Do one of those Christian Bale firings.
Yeah, exactly.
Welcome. This is episode 95.
Episode 95, live
Yeah.
at Epiphan on, of course, Thursday at 3 o'clock Eastern.
3 o'clock.
I actually don't know what time it is because I haven't had lunch yet, so I'm a little delirious.
Call it 9 o'clock then.
9 o'clock.
Yeah, 9 o'clock a.m.
It's 9 o'clock somewhere.
It's not actually lunchtime yet.
Yeah, exactly. Today we have an interesting topic that actually comes across our desks a lot with a lot of our customers who are live streaming various different live events in different forms, and that is how to deal with copyright, DRM,
How to
MkII,
understand digital rights management?
yeah, and all the other things involved with it. So we're going to dive into that, but first we will cover the news.
The news. So what's happening in February? I think we've got some
do.
booth in some far-off European city.
Yeah. Some of us from the Epiphan team, of course, will be at ISE, Integrated
All the
Systems
cool kids, of
Europe,
course.
in Amsterdam, the first week of February. So those of you in the EU, hopefully, if you're interested in such AV, techie kind of stuff, and especially interested in Epiphan, if you have the opportunity to join us at the show, that would be fantastic. We would love to see you.
If you meet at least one of these two criteria.
Yeah.
You
Well,
don't-
I mean, you could fly from anywhere if you want, but that might be a little pricey. Most things within Europe are fairly close and cheap in comparison.
Totally.
But, of course, if you're interested in a pass, I believe we do have codes that reach out to us. I think we
cool.
can get you pass codes and stuff like
That'd be
that to
very
get
cool.
into the show.
I do that every year with NAB. You wait until the last minute, and then
someone
you get
gives you a free pass.
Yeah, you get the free pass, and you don't have to pay. Because really, like, why am I paying to go look at stuff that I'm going to pay for?
Exactly.
Right? It's like you've got your kid in a hockey tournament.
Yeah.
You put all that money into it, and now I'm paying admission to go watch my kid play hockey. Yeah.
Speaking of free,
Hey, oh yeah, good, awesome segue. I love that one.
That was an easy one.
Coming up on our 100th episode, we are
5
giving
episodes from now.
Yeah, 5 episodes from now, we are giving away a huge contest. It's huge with a Y.
Huge.
Huge. So if you happen to live in Europe, or you live in Canada, or in North
in the
America,
US.
or anywhere in the world,
Anywhere.
I should say, it's not restricted to any certain region. You have the opportunity to go to NAB or IBC,
Yes.
depending on which one you prefer. And we'll give you hotel accommodation, we'll give you transportation to the event. You get to hang out with us.
We
I don't know
might
if you
put
put
you
a
on
value
camera.
on that.
No,
we might
you
put you on
can't.
camera. If you're comfortable, if you're one of the winners, we are asking that you submit a video showing your acting chops, showing your hosting chops, kind of if you can even operate a camera, if you know how to edit video, that's kind of a bonus.
We'll make sure that we get the links to the contest entry stuff in the comments and all that stuff very shortly.
Please check out our website as well. And we've
there's
got
a
all
huge
more
banner on the
details there.
website on epiphan.com with that contest entry. So that's really exciting. For those of you that don't know, NAB is in Las Vegas in April.
Coincidentally, when all the hotels are insanely expensive.
Yeah,
I'm not sure why that lines up
it's
every year. Yeah, it's
weird,
kind of weird.
huh?
Kind of weird.
Las Vegas in April. It's usually windy and not that hot, but still warm enough to
It's
be
still,
tolerable.
yeah, if you live in
Very
northern
windy
Canada,
in
it's,
April there.
yeah.
It's very strange. June is never like that. But anyway, and IBC is in Amsterdam in September, and based on my experience, that is the time.
Yeah, that's a good time to be there.
It is beautiful, unlike February.
Do they do the leaves there in Amsterdam?
No,
They
it
like the
just looks
color
like summer.
changes. It's just okay.
looks like
That's
summer.
nice.
It's
That's nice.
beautiful. When we were there last September, it was like 28 degrees every day. It was perfect. Anyway,
And we do have our link up on our chat
so
right
check that
now.
out.
And hi to Kim and hi to Marco. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
Please enter into our contest. I want to
Please.
see those videos from Mark and Kim.
But we do have one we wanted to share with you guys. We've got a bunch of entries, but we did have one that we found hilarious. We wanted to share with you guys. So we'll bring that up and just share a few seconds of it with you guys. Again,
Let's share all the seconds.
Yeah.
Can we share the whole thing?
well, it's nearly a minute long.
It's 49 seconds.
Yeah. Anyway,
All right,
we'll let it roll.
Let's do the thing.
But this is a great entry.
Perfect.
Hopefully you guys can hear it.
I think they can. I don't think he knows what NAB stands for.
No, I don't think I think he finds out.
Spoiler. It looks like he's on the set of the UK office.
Yeah.
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 Oh, and there's the reveal.
So hopefully you guys could hear that. We were trying to run that clip out of Cameron's laptop here. So hopefully you guys could hear that audio. If not, you know, we could share the link to that video in the description as well if people feel like it. But we wanted to thank that entrant for their excellent work.
And
we
keep
have
the entries coming. They're flowing in. We'd like to see as many as possible. Now, I do apologize. I am seeing some comments on here that there was no sound, but it did look funny. And that's, you know, that's half the battle, right?
We'll pull that up.
Yeah, we'll figure that out for next week's episode. It was
we'll
kind of a last minute attempt on our side. So,
but we did, or I should say, not everyone, but I invented my own grading system for these entries off the top of my head. That one graded pretty well. Some of the things we enjoyed about that video, the comedy of it.
The writing was really good, right? The comedy writing was
excellent.
really good.
We definitely appreciate that.
Vertical video,
not so much.
minus 10 points for Hufflepuff there.
Yeah, exactly.
He looks like a Hufflepuff kind of guy.
Yeah, but it was a great video. Thank you for that entry, and we might throw in a few more in the next couple of shows leading up to 100. But back into, was there something else I was going to talk about?
Well, we have a webinar coming up next week.
Yes, that's right.
So if anyone's interested, we're doing a webinar on Kaltura.
Yes.
Kaltura is one of our latest integration partners. We can actually hook up your Pearl device directly to Kaltura. It's an amazing tool. If you're in that space, please check out that webinar. You can sign up on our website as well.
We'll also not only have the webinar, but those of you join us at ISE in February, we'll be showing that in our booth. We have some other news that we'll be showing in our booth that we'll maybe keep under our hats for now, but there should be some cool new gear tied with a Pearl in our booth.
Oh,
the
that
other big company.
Now,
anyway.
Thank you, Torben. Yeah, that's not how to live stream. Thank you.
Yeah. Exactly. Also not how to
do
live stream.
Do as we say, not do as we do.
Also not how to live stream. Right before the show started, we recently changed the computer that runs some of the stuff in here, and working out bugs literally 10 seconds before the show went live, and things are still not 100%. So once you have a system
right
up and
before
running,
the episode, why not just change something that's vital to the show?
Yeah, why not?
Why not, right?
Throw a wrench right in the
nothing else
gears.
to do.
Watch
and
it all
this
explode.
is. Can I just tweak this?
No, you can't. You were. Other George was tweaking that for like 10 minutes before the show started. Anyway, so once you have things working, don't mess with it.
We'll do an episode on that later.
Yeah, exactly.
What not to do, what I do every week.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into DRM. So we've
DRM.
used the acronym a couple of times.
Yes.
Digital Rights Management.
Yeah.
Now we know digital rights management from experience that we've had with VODs, so video on demand. You know, I've posted videos on YouTube, and then I get this notice saying, "Hey, you use copyrighted music." And I'm not going to get a strike, but they're going to put some, some advertisements on it, or I can't monetize it.
Yeah.
But the live streaming is a totally different ballgame.
Yeah, so DRM is a huge blanket term. First of all, digital rights management, as we've said about 3 times now. It's a huge blanket term, and I think the acronym DRM, most people are familiar with software, games, movies. Usually with music, you just hear copyright in general, but it's still part of a larger overall system of what happens when you have copyrights, and the copyright holders need to manage that material, hence DRM.
Well, they want to get paid, right? Like if you play a song on the radio,
everybody wants to get paid.
You got to get that cent for every play, and it adds up, and you have a good song, and you're sitting pretty.
When we were looking at this, because this is one of the hardest things to understand as soon as you bring it into the live streaming area. Like you're saying, we both have posted things on YouTube in the past where maybe you used some music, maybe you used a video clip from a movie or something like that.
Totally.
You might get flagged for it under certain conditions. VOD, there's one set of rules. Live is a whole other ballgame. And it used to be, not that long ago, that YouTube, Facebook, Twitch was the Wild West.
We use that term so much when it comes to live streaming. It's Wild West.
Yeah.
We talk about these things. Everything's just being discovered as we're going now.
You used to be able to get away with basically using any music at any time for any length of time during a live stream. Not so anymore. Both YouTube and Facebook, and starting more and more Twitch, have automatic algorithms that will check your content and potentially flag any copyrighted material, audio or visual, and that can lead to a whole cascade of problems. So one of the ones we could focus on would be YouTube. Overall, YouTube uses something they've called Content ID.
And this one seems to be the most advanced out of all of them, right?
See,
well, advanced without maybe loosely using the term advanced,
Yeah,
right? Or it's the
yeah.
most, you have the most options. Or
It's certainly the oldest, so
Okay.
it might be the most mature. Let's use mature.
There we go.
Facebook seemed to be more aggressive, but maybe not quite as mature in its overall process.
Well, and it's reactionary, right? Like with
yeah.
Facebook, done.
Yeah.
If you have
So-
anything that's copyrighted on there, you're just right off. There's no.
So some of the things are variable, right, on terms of what happens. Part of the problem of navigating this is that the variables are even what type of, whose content you're using, right? It might change the outcome. Some artists are more aggressive than others.
Okay.
Metallica. Others don't seem to care at all.
Yeah.
So it really does depend. If we dive into it, and Cameron and I have been researching this for like several days, tearing our hair out, trying to just find simple, straight answers.
There isn't.
There isn't.
There isn't.
So
Just,
our
there isn't
title
just
is
one answer.
clickbait, misleading. You don't understand anything. No, part of that is because there are so many different layers to it, and trying to understand it was very difficult. So I think I want to start with the consequences.
Okay.
What happens if you get flagged? What can happen?
So I've posted a video on YouTube. I've used some
Let's just say
copyrighted
we're
music.
doing live streaming, right?
Okay, so you're doing a live
You're
stream.
live streaming someone's keynote or address or whatever, and while they're walking up on stage, they're playing some super cool intro music, or there's a DJ in the background during the quiet times playing some music.
Totally.
During your live stream of whatever event you're doing. Maybe even it's a sporting event. Maybe it's a game of whatever kind. During
When you say DJ, because that DJ, he could have purchased the rights to play that music.
and we'll get to those ones. So what happens? So if the automatic algorithm detects that music, says that's copyrighted, flags you. There's a couple of things that can happen. The first is your live stream could be terminated right on the spot. They could
And
say
we're talking
that's,
about YouTube right now.
it could be Facebook
YouTube
as well.
or Facebook? Okay.
Yeah, either one, or in Twitch handles it a little differently. But you could, your stream could just shut down suddenly. You could just lose connection, and that's it. You're done. The second layer to that is you could be banned from ever live streaming again. Both Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch.
So just
could
like one
potentially
strike,
escalate.
you're out.
Potentially.
Okay.
YouTube has various layers to this, and that's where you cannot understand it because it seems to be somewhat arbitrary in its application of it.
Well, I've received those emails from YouTube where
Sure.
they say, oh, you violated this copyright, here's why, here's the song.
Sure.
But don't worry, you're still in good standing.
Right.
And after reading the first 2/3 of the email, you think, oh no, what have I done? I'm going to be in trouble. And then,
So we've seen a number of people where they have used music that was copyrighted. They didn't get a strike, so their community standing is still good. Their copyright listing is still good, but they've lost the ability to live stream.
Okay.
So there's a weird invisible in-between state. And that's where it gets frustrating.
and these are the calls that you get from our customers too,
Yes.
right? Because they don't understand what's happening because there's no
Yeah.
really clear prompt, there's no messaging,
right,
but
and-
all they know is that it's not working and it's probably my hardware.
And unfortunately, I can't give them a straight answer either because the account overview that you will get from YouTube may not give you the whole picture. There might be a time delay for it to say, might be like 48 hours before strike appears in your, like you don't know. Facebook's even worse because there is nowhere to find out. You just suddenly can't live stream anymore.
Yeah.
Who knows why?
You
right?
call Mark up on the phone.
Yeah, call
right?
up Mark while he's in his backyard barbecuing,
Barbecuing with a
and
shaky-
find out, hey, Mark,
shaky
you're live
light,
streaming.
yeah.
How come I can't? You know, it's really tough to navigate. Twitch, again, not a lot of our viewers involved in Twitch. They do something similar. If you get a copyright strike or claim, a DMCA takedown, that's a whole other mess of acronyms.
Sounds like a move and like an MMA.
Yeah, theirs
move
isn't
or
quite as
something.
automated. Someone has to initiate an intentional takedown notice.
Okay.
They may, all Twitch violations operate on a multi-strike system. Okay. So your first strike is always a 24-hour ban, then a 7-day, then a 30, and then perma. So if you violate a copyright once, someone does a takedown, you might be banned from streaming on Twitch for 24 hours on your first hit. But that could happen in the middle of your live stream if it happens quick enough.
So on YouTube, for example, if I have my live control room open, am I going to see a prompt?
Potentially.
Saying like, hey, you're using this copyrighted music, and then I have like a certain amount of time before it'll actually shut down my stream?
Yeah, so similar to VOD, Content ID can notify you pretty much on the fly of these claims and give you options of what you can do.
Okay.
Unlike VOD, you don't get the option of just saying, well, I guess I won't monetize, right? Which is what often happens with VOD. That's your way out when you've posted a recorded video, is I won't monetize it. I'm not going to make any money from this because that would be copyright violation, making money off of someone else's work. When you're live, you're not really monetizing it anyways yet.
Well, and you know, arguably you could have an inline ad if you were promoting a service or a product that could be considered an advertisement, right?
But you don't get the same option of sharing the revenue stream. That's another option for VOD is you can say to YouTube, that's fine, I will redirect all ad revenue to the copyright holder, right? That's another option. Again, you can't really do that.
That's what I've seen on the notifications that I've received.
Exactly.
Is that we're going to monetize it, there'll be an ad, you won't see any of this revenue, and that's fine.
Exactly. The other problem is that you don't know through Content ID, sometimes it's manual intervention. The copyright holder themselves is using Content ID. They have their own little ticker feed or whatever that's telling them so-and-so is using your material, what do you want to do about it? And they can do an intervention. If they're really bad about it, they could just force it through and try and shut you down immediately. And
so you could ask for permission, and then whoever you've asked for permission may not be in the same loop as who's being notified about this copyright violation.
And I think the biggest challenge with this, and so part of my own experience in the past deals with some licensing things when it comes to music. In my case, in particular, dealing with contemporary Christian music, there is a whole licensing company and scheme for you to be able to use that music even at a summer camp singing around a campfire with a group of people, because that's a public use of the material. You have to be licensed to use that copyrighted
performance,
material. Right? It is. So within that, there's CCLI, which manages all that. You can buy
what
CCLI.
Does CCLI stand for?
I don't even remember it, but I'm sure. But it's a licensing organization for that particular type of music.
That's where that worship
and they have a library of copyrighted material that will allow you use of it. You pay them a fee, you get legal use of that material. There are lots of these licensing bodies out there. So there's, what was that one I was looking at the other day? There's a couple of them that allow you royalty-free music. You pay a monthly fee, $12, $15 a month, and you can use that library of material royalty-free, meaning you have the license for redistribution. So the biggest struggle is, though,
and this would apply if your house of worship is streaming online to parishioners.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe they're going through another CDN that's redistributing it like on a private channel.
Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
So you can't find it publicly, so you have a little bit more control there.
A little bit, because they don't have these automatic algorithms.
Right.
That's actually one of the biggest advantages of going to these more premium, non-free CDNs like Streaming Church or even Livestream.com, to be honest. They don't have these automatic algorithms for things like Content ID.
Well,
that can be a pro and a con.
We'll ask our friends in a couple of weeks because we're doing a show.
We're going to ask them more details
Church.
about how they manage that. But technically speaking, anytime you're giving a public performance or redistribution of copyrighted material, you must be licensed, which means money, to distribute that content. Period. End of story.
If that's the way it has to be, then I must be able to preload that license.
And here's where it gets annoying. The common platforms, Facebook and YouTube, there is no avenue that I have found to just say, hey guy, here's my license number, my legal license number, I can use that library. It doesn't exist.
It's not a thing.
Well, it is and it isn't.
Okay.
So through Content ID for YouTube, and Facebook seems to have one similar under, they call it rights management, you can attempt to be whitelisted.
Okay.
Whitelisted is a generic term within the tech industry, being you are allowed to X.
Totally.
You can technically get whitelisted and be allowed to use the material, and no one should issue a shutdown on you. And you should be, and it shouldn't automatically flag you.
Because you're vetted, you've got authorization.
But it's a manual process of you going and arguing your case, providing your licensing information, potentially getting permission individually for each and every copyright holder that you're trying to use their material.
Oh, wow.
Potentially. And that's, I mean, that's a massive
So not even
amount of
from
work.
like a licensing organization
Well, you
or
might
a
be able
licensing
to.
company.
You might be able to.
Okay.
But even if you said to YouTube in Content ID, I've purchased this block, here's my license number, whitelist me, they could say yes, but then the actual copyright holder, they may not know. And like you mentioned earlier, you might play, they go, hey, who's this guy? Flag him, right? So it's a mess. It's a gigantic mess. And
well, these are all issues in traditional broadcasts that have been dealt with, and it's they're in the book, like they're on the books.
Well, that's because all those guys are at the same level. Record companies and the artists represented by those record companies and television media, they're all at the same level, right?
They're all at the same table,
They're speaking the same language. Live streamers and those guys, they're nowhere near each other.
Well,
when
and
it comes
we're
to
coming up, right? So as the tools become more powerful, as the platforms are becoming more accessible, we need to figure out what these rules are, because we want to play by the rules.
Absolutely.
We don't want to be using copyrighted music. We don't want to be pirates. We want it to be legit.
Yeah. So I found a whole bunch of articles, and maybe, do you want to copy and paste some of those articles in there? There was
one, for sure.
There was one pretty good one. There's one I labeled as maybe the best one yet that I kind of found. But there was a few articles that I stumbled across where actually lawyers were looking at this subject. And they came to the conclusion that in general, the only easy way out is to just not use any music
Just
at
don't
all.
do it.
Just don't even try.
That's
Just
when I go to
don't
the
even
doctor and I say,
bother.
my knee hurts. And he says,
don't
oh, what are you
you-
doing? Well, don't do that anymore.
Exactly, essentially.
Okay.
And it's simply because there's just no easy way out.
Yeah.
The other
Well,
flip
there's
side
just
of
so
that-
many rules that aren't disclosed, they're not known. So for now, just don't do it.
Right.
And then in a few years, and a little bit further down the road, maybe in
There's
like
a thing
it could
in
be
my
happening
head
right
that
now.
it should be simple enough to, when you sign up for an account on YouTube and you enable live streaming, there's a field there to say, put in your, like, what license do you hold, and put in your license
Yeah, your
number.
clearance number.
That
or
should be
something, right?
automated. Like, that shouldn't be that difficult, but we're not there yet. The other interesting part, reading all the comments on this lawyer post, was the part I found the most hilarious. And that is the misconceptions about what it means when you buy access to music.
Well, as a user, you go online. I bought this song on iTunes. I own this song.
No,
I
you
can
don't.
do whatever I want with it.
Nope.
I can play it at my house. I can broadcast it online.
Wrong.
For 99 cents? No.
Big wrong. Big wrong.
Maybe for $99,000 you could do that.
When I was reading these articles, I would say 90% of comments, everyone basically came out and said, well, I bought it on iTunes, I own a Spotify account, I bought a Pandora, I have a Sirius satellite thing. Why can't I just broadcast it? Because you don't own distribution rights.
Well, that would be like watching the NFL. So I paid for the sports channel. I can't stream it online as I'm watching it.
And sporting events has always had the way out forever, right? I remember, like, it was ingrained as a kid growing up in Toronto. Every time you would watch a Jays game on TV, the game always started with, this broadcast cannot be redistributed without express written permission by Toronto Blue Jays or blah, blah, blah. Right?
And a very official looking seal on there, right?
It's the same thing with music. Just because you bought it on iTunes or you have a Spotify account, that allows you to listen to it with your ears only, privately. You cannot
share the earbuds.
Yeah, you cannot play it publicly. And that includes, like, you can't just, technically speaking, you couldn't just go to the park and play it for all to hear.
Wow.
Because that's a public performance of the media.
Well, unfortunately, there are copyright police wandering around
Luckily,
through the
that
park.
doesn't. But technically speaking, if someone wanted to and they wanted to be kind of a jerk about it, they could escalate everything all the way to a lawsuit. And that could happen for your live stream as well.
Totally.
If a copyright holder wanted to be a big-time jerk about it, They could just jump straight to sending you a lawyer cease and desist and a demand for licensing.
Totally, and now you've lost your opportunity to monetize.
Exactly.
If you were one of those users that had the right amount of hours, had a right amount of viewers, and you've earned that right, and now you've lost it, and you've lost your income.
Super risky.
We have a good question actually from Torben, and this is something that I was thinking about before the episode, but I don't really know what the rules are. I've seen this on TV before, or the radio, where they can play a certain amount of a song.
Yes.
So Torben's question is, I wonder how they'll be able to pin shorter samples used from sample libraries, and what the limit is for how long they can be before there's a strike. So that's a great question.
It is.
And it's something that we're not aware of. If anyone else knows on the chat, or if they have a little bit more information about it.
Again, these are generally things that people have figured out through experimentation.
Trial and error.
Right.
Yeah.
How long can you go before you get cut off? Usually speaking, like YouTube has this one thing. So in copyright law, there's something called fair use. Right.
Okay.
You can claim fair use if you are critiquing things like that. Right. If you're doing a review of something, that is fair use. But you can't just play the whole song front to back and then claim to review it. You can't do that. Yeah. Usually, generally, there's no written down policy to this. Really, usually you can get away with about 10 seconds as a clip.
Okay.
With a break of whatever, and then another 10 seconds. Right. So you see this on pre-recorded VODs on YouTube all the time. People will play 10 seconds, talk about it, play 10 seconds, talk about it. Super popular. They're not getting flagged because they are doing a critique, and they're breaking it up so that it's a legitimate fair use critique of the piece of music.
And that algorithm will recognize the amount of time that it plays and know.
To a degree. It seems to not trigger until a certain amount in, yes.
Right.
That doesn't work on a live stream.
Because they're really trying to stop those folks that are posting the entire album.
Absolutely.
Or sharing the whole song.
Let's be honest, people do that.
Yeah.
But they're the ones in legal trouble, so don't worry about what they're doing.
Just don't take down the full Motorhead album.
Worry about yourself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's where it gets tricky, though, is that in a live stream, how much control do you have if you're shooting a live event and someone's playing a full song in the background?
Or even more than 10 seconds of
You're going to try and mute your audio every 10 seconds?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. You can't do that. It's unrealistic. So that's where the complexity of doing it live just blows up in your face because you don't have the same control. You mentioned DJs earlier. They're a great example. Any DJ that's on the up and up, they have purchased a license to allow them to publicly perform that music.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, there's a ton that don't do that, and that is technically illegal. Whatever.
Again, yeah, you just don't invite the copyright police to your wedding.
Yeah. But that license isn't inheritable, meaning if you are live streaming an event, you've hired a DJ, he has a license, you don't inherit his license for your live stream. No. So you have to hold your own license because you're rebroadcasting it in a different medium.
Well, and I would say that even the DJ, if he had one license to play the music, he's going to have another license for the live broadcast, right?
Probably.
So those are two separate,
could
potentially be two separate licenses.
The same license holder doing it, you could probably do it under one.
Okay.
Probably. But it's going to depend on the license.
And then it takes us back to the first question of how do you even tell these services that you have this license?
That's the problem. And even when I was looking at some of the services I found where you can buy these catalogs and have this royalty-free music, there's no FAQ that says, yeah, this priced plan allows you to live stream the music, this one doesn't. It doesn't tell you at all. You have no idea. So it's really, really tough.
So we have one from Tim Trott Productions. Why not purchase music rights from a source like Smart Sound or AudioJungle.net? They provide license certification in a PDF file, which can be stored on a website, which could be taken back if a challenge is put up later, which is great for your VOD.
Absolutely.
But again, on the live, you're not going to have an opportunity to send them a PDF right when they're shutting it down.
That's the only way to do it currently, right? Yeah. That is the correct way to do it. The downside is while you're live streaming, what good is a PDF you have on your computer? No one knows that you have that. No one cares. Content ID flags you. You can dispute it after the fact. You can try and dispute it on the fly even and provide that documentation. But are you going to be able to do that soon enough before they shut you down? Who knows?
Comment from Race TV Live. Do you think that they block music from royalty-free websites as well, or do you think that they assume you've paid the $20 sort of license? Now, if you're using a royalty-free song, then that artist doesn't have that song in a catalog,
Right.
and they're not enforcing the copyright. So
Right. The person who holds that catalog could.
Okay.
That's the thing. So, and that's why, again, it comes back to this lawyer's opinion of just don't bother, because
Yeah.
could Content ID, again, Content ID and Facebook rights management starts fully automated. It's automated. There is human intervention at a higher level, but it's initially automated. You think that the bot that Facebook or YouTube is running at the initial stages of Content ID cares or is going to assume that you've bought the Audio Jungle package? They don't know. They don't care.
robots don't like you. They don't
No.
have compassion about your
No, they don't.
your
They,
situation.
they are our new overlords, and they are going to smash you into the ground.
And we respect them and love them and welcome our
And
our
again,
new overlords.
Absolutely, you've purchased that. You get into trouble. You can get yourself out of legal trouble, as I think Tim was saying earlier, by providing the documentation that you have a paid license. But again, live, what does that give you?
Yeah, nothing.
If you post a recorded video on YouTube, could you put into the comments or the description, by the way, licensed by license number XYZ?
Yeah, you can put it in
You
the
could try.
description. Right?
You could try.
Yeah.
Is that going to work? I don't know. And that's where I got frustrated, is that there isn't any way of just preloading your license. That's what makes me upset and frustrated.
Comment here from Ron Hoffman. So Ron uses, or he's producing a live stream that covers an annual ballroom dance competition.
Yeah.
And they do have that blanket license for a
Right.
public performance license for the venue.
Perfect.
But it is not good enough for live streaming.
Okay,
So
it's a
Ron, I
different
imagine
tier.
you've had issues with this in the past, and are curious, like, did
Yeah,
that
give us more
result?
info.
If you could give us a little bit more, or sorry, doesn't help with the automated ID. So Ron,
Right,
what
so
happened in your circumstance? Did you?
Have your stool.
Oh, I gotta cut
Oh,
back
yeah,
on those
yeah.
fig Newtons. So Ron, did you actually have your live stream shut down, or did you get a copyright flag, or was it maybe on Facebook or YouTube?
Yeah.
Maybe just give us a little bit more information on the chat.
Yeah, please. We'd love to hear from someone who's actually had to deal with this nonsense.
Totally.
From what I was researching, though, is that Facebook's algorithm seems to be much more aggressive in shutting you down faster
Yeah.
than YouTube's Content ID. Both appear to have this theoretical path for whitelisting, and I did find some links to those. But again, I mean, that still relies on someone else not coming in and saying, wait, hold on, I didn't give the permission. So again, it's a tough way to navigate and figure out what you can do, what you can't do. And
Here's some clarification from Mike Latta. A DJ in Canada that has a SOCAN, so I've heard about SOCAN before, has a SOCAN covered license, does not have the license to stream online.
okay.
So you would
is
have to
there a
have two
different tier of
separate-
SOCAN?
Okay.
Like, I mean, that's the question, I guess, out there. Is there a different tier of SOCAN that allows
Yeah.
you? Because again, you were mentioning radio, right? This is one of the oldest things. Radio still operates this way.
Totally.
Any radio station buys a bulk license. Like, people always wonder, why do I hear the same song 10 times a day on this radio station? Besides it being popular, being paid for it, sometimes they've only paid for a catalog of so big,
Yeah.
and they got to fill their program. And that happens a lot, especially because as content ages, it tends to get cheaper.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
Totally.
So-
Unless it's the Beatles and it just stays
Well,
the same
yeah,
price.
then it's and
prohibitive.
eventually things become public domain.
That's true. Yeah.
Public domain you can use.
You can use those old RKO records and
Right. So
some,
if
scat data
anything
like
that's
that.
in public domain should theoretically never be flagged. By the way, Happy Birthday is not public domain.
so we can't sing it to you next week.
Technically, you can't.
It's your birthday.
And that's a
happy
whole,
birthday.
that's one of the beautiful examples of the idiocy of copyright law when it comes to music. Something that is, I don't even know how old anymore. Somehow, the original writer's estate has been able to keep refreshing the copyright.
It's the family that owns the rights to Happy Birthday, and that's why you never see Happy Birthday on a
In
TV
movies,
show,
yeah,
in movies.
It's always
unless
some
it's
variation.
Like, some variation, or they kind of like play off
cover.
of the joke of it, right?
Yeah,
Or it won't be more than
it's-
10 seconds of Happy
But
Birthday.
that seems so ridiculous, right?
It's
And that's-
absolutely ridiculous.
So there's a lot of that case, and my understanding is A great example of this would be classical music.
Okay.
There's a lot of classical music that is public domain. There's a lot that isn't, and you don't really know. Coming back to the church example, typically speaking, the old hymns from the 15th century, like I am named after, those are pretty much public domain at this point.
Yeah.
But contemporary music is not, even if it's 50 years old. So it's a tough thing. And by the way, copyright rules are changing again. This most recent Canadian and North American free trade stuff between Canada and the U.S., one of the attempts they wanted to do is increase copyright to 70 years past the death of the person. So good luck with that.
So let's just go back to what the lawyers say.
Don't
Do it. Just don't do it at all.
Yeah.
'Cause
Why
it's not
doesn't
gonna work.
Epiphan Live have a cool jingle at the beginning? Some nice top 40 stuff to bring us in.
I would
That's
like to
fine.
refer you to 95, episode 95, if you'd like more information.
Of course, music of your own creation. You're the copyright holder. You can free to do as you want. Hopefully, it's not anywhere similar to existing works and won't
Yeah.
get flagged. Be
Well,
more
that's
unique.
actually, that kind of leads into this question from Torben, excuse me. Is there a way to make sure before starting your stream that you make sure that the platform knows or how to know if it is original material at all?
Well, again, so
that's why you have to do your research into the material,
Yeah.
right? Know where your source material is coming from. But I think what we've basically said is that there isn't really a way of notifying them in advance.
not really, no.
Not
The
a clear
best-
way.
If you are using unique works that you own the rights to because you've created it, you should never be flagged unless it's similar enough to get picked up by the automatic algorithm. Generally speaking, Content ID and Facebook Rights Management operate on the copyright holders, record companies, artists, so on, providing master samples of the copyrighted material and saying, this material is copyrighted. If you get a match, flag it.
Yeah.
If they haven't done that for whatever reason, and this definitely happens with small indie artists, smaller labels, just weird, obscure stuff, it's probably not uploaded to Content ID. You probably can easily get away with it without ever being flagged. The problem is you don't know ahead of time. There's
Yeah.
no way of knowing ahead of time. There isn't a library that I could find, and maybe I'm wrong, but there isn't
Maybe
a
it's
library.
something we don't have access to if you're in the industry.
Exactly. I could not find just a library that says, here's the stuff you cannot use, partially because it would be millions of songs deep. So there's no safe list. That's the problem.
Yeah.
There's no safe list. And that's where it gets tricky again.
So again, from Race TV Live, and this goes back to what you're saying, he's wondering if you were able to pitch shift the audio track slightly and change the tempo a bit. Might you be able to get it past the YouTube police? Now, they've thought of that. They've already identified that. And what Georgia said is they upload this master file, so that sits in the library. It's used as a reference. Right. And YouTube works with other companies, subcontractors, and they've developed these algorithms that will take that song, they'll pitch it, they'll rotate it, they'll put the volume up and down. With visual content on YouTube, they use the histogram.
Yep.
So they take that video file and they knock it down into a histogram, which is a lot easier to kind of store and compare. And then they take that histogram, they flip it, invert it, crop it, shift it, tilt it. They do all these things to it.
And to be fair,
you'd have to have a ridiculous amount of stuff on there before.
But that's a huge amount of effort for the copyright holder to do that. Right?
Well, that's what YouTube's doing.
Well, I know, but it's an extra layer.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So to his point, can you do it? Theoretically.
Should you do it?
Should you do it? It's a gamble. You don't know.
Yeah.
You might still get flagged because they've gone through that extra effort. I would say the more obscure it is, the more likely you are to get away with it. But if you're trying to play I don't even know new music today, whatever the number one hit of the
What's the
world
guy with the
is right
tattoos
now.
on his face?
I don't even
and
know.
he's got
It's all trash. Anyway.
DJ Tempo?
But, yeah, I don't know. Some guy, DJ Cool Guy, whatever. Whatever the number one hit is right now, if you try and use that even pitch shifted, you're probably going to get flagged.
Yeah. someone's going to show up to your house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it varies, and that's the tough part, I think.
Now, Alan has made a couple of comments, Mr. Herbert.
I wonder who that guy is.
Yeah, I wonder who he is.
Never heard of
him. Usually we just go. No, I'm going to say. Usually we just ignore those ones. We don't. But so Alan is saying for the happy birthday, that was in court in 2013 onwards. On June 18th of 2016, the final settlement was officially granted, and the court declared that the song was in the public domain.
Okay, so it is now.
So we've had 3 whole years that we could have been singing Happy Birthday
as our intro jingle the whole time.
Next week's episode.
Yeah. So, I mean, but there again, is that something where everyone knew that unless you decide to spend however long we've been on air talking about that, Googling it to figure out court cases? No one has the time for that. No one...
Well, and you get into this like I heard and it's hearsay.
I heard. Exactly.
It's all this information that was valid at one point and it's changed, and that's the name of the game. Everything's going to change, and a year it's going to be different.
Consult your lawyer. They'll tell you just don't bother.
Yeah. Jay-Z is like going to get all these pop-ups on his phone. He's just swiping on all these DRM notifications. Yeah. Torben, of course, we're happy to answer all your questions online. Thank you for participating in the chat.
Yeah, definitely.
And this was kind of a little bit of a rabbit hole discussion.
It is. Well, it's a rabbit hole of a mess of a tangled web of insanity on how do you even deal with this stuff.
Totally.
And this comes up a lot because a lot of our viewers are customers who either own or are interested in owning our Webcaster X2. Which we thank you very much for that.
Yeah, of course.
Our largest market for the Webcaster X2 in North America is churches. This comes up all the time with them because they get flagged.
Yeah.
They use a Webcaster, they do a live stream on Facebook, they're using contemporary music, they get flagged, and all of a sudden they can't live stream anymore, and they go call me and they say, what happened?
Well, and these are not-for-profit. These are folks
and chances are they have a CCLI license.
Yeah, they have their CCLI.
Doesn't,
blah, blah, blah,
it
license.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because there's no way for you to preload it, as we've repeated. So you could fight it afterwards and get your rights to streaming restored. That's not hard. But are you going to get flagged again? Maybe.
Well, and you can use that Worship CDN as well, right? And that way,
so that's
your
where,
viewers are just in that private view. It's a pay to play or have a paywall in front of it,
and
or a
that's
subscription.
Where these specific platforms that are dedicated to certain tasks are going to be your better choice. Facebook and YouTube are awesome because they're free,
accessible, right, on every device,
and everyone's
everywhere.
used to them. Everyone knows what they do. The drawback is you don't get the advanced tools to help you with these things because they're run by robots that don't care.
Well, and ultimately, we say they don't care and they're robots, but YouTube is accountable, right? So if they allow this to happen, they're going to get sued.
There's a guy flipping a couple of switches here and there, right? But
I'm just imagining a million monkeys in front of a million laptops.
Sometimes I feel that's the way they run.
Just warehouses
honestly. Whereas, with the Webcaster, if you're a church who wanted to do live streaming, going through something like our friends at streamingchurch.tv, they're going to help you manage all this stuff. We'll find out more information from them when they're on our show in the not too distant future. 2 episodes?
Yeah, we're going to have them on episode 97, I believe.
Yeah. So save up those questions for those guys if you like. I'm certainly going to be bothering them about it because it's one of the biggest things for me as a point of frustration, and probably one of the biggest arguments for looking at these paid platforms that can have more advanced tools to help you with this stuff.
Totally.
So,
well, thank you very much for watching.
Yeah.
Make sure to enter. So if you're watching right now, enter into our contest. All you have to do is make a video, throw a couple hashtags on it.
Be
we
funny,
should say in the
creative.
video, do not use any copyrighted
Yeah, don't
music
use
in
music.
the video, please.
Don't use music.
And, just take your phone. If you find you're shooting like this,
rotate it.
you just go like that.
Yeah,
it's pretty...
No,
there used to be like a thing
you can
on
do
there.
whatever you
No.
want. Stick it on a
It's
selfie
becoming a
stand,
thing.
whatever.
It's becoming a thing.
Yeah.
And we will announce the winner of that on our 100th episode.
Yes. So get
please
those
take a
entries
look.
in quickly.
Of course.
Come up with something cool and creative, scripted as well. It doesn't have to be long. That example we used today is 50 seconds.
Yeah.
Could be that. Could be 30 seconds. Could be 5 minutes.
I think we have a limit. I think there's a time limit that I'm looking at Lisa.
Could be
she's,
half an
she's
hour.
going to throw some fingers up. 15 Hours. No.
One of those 10-hour loops on YouTube. That's what we're looking for.
And that's why we wrote it all down and put it on our website, so that we don't have to remember everything.
Yeah, and I'll make up a new arbitrary scoring system.
Just keep it under 15 hours.
Just for you. Yeah.
If you made a 15-hour video that was actually watchable, you'd probably
I still
get
won't
a
watch
vote.
it.
All right, well, thanks again for watching. Make sure to tune in next week. We're here every Thursday at 3 p.m. Follow us on the shows, on all the socials.
All the socials.
On the socials by the seashore.
Like,
And
share, subscribe, do all those things.
do the thing. Get on the chat with us. We'll
Yeah,
ignore some, we'll
exactly.
answer others.
And
You know,
thank you
that's the way
for
we go.
joining for our rambling, confusing you further discussion on attempting, failing at understanding DRM.
You're welcome. Thanks again.